Hello, hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is your girl Mitzi, and this is Mitzi. Let's think about it. We are thinking about behavioral analysis. That's to really think about because it really makes you think about yourself and your behaviors. So, luckily for me, I have a special guest on my show, Hannah. Thank you so much for joining me and sharing your perspective with me, the world, the audience, everyone that's listening. Thank you, and I hope that you're having a good day so far.
Yes, I'm excited to be here. Thank you.
Awesome, awesome. So we're just gonna just dive right in. What is a behavioral analysis? What do they do, and what does it even mean?
My mom didn't know for like 20 years. So,
Oh my goodness, that's sad.
so nobody knows. It's like the secret job. I need like a code job now. Um, so there's a science called behavior analysis, and it evolved more back in the 70s from psychology. And so now there's an official board. You can get your board certification as a behavior analyst. So if someone says they're a behaviorist and they're not board certified, figure out if they're actually into behavior analysis or not.
Okay.
So it's a science. And I usually go by saying I'm your behavior analyst because I do it on a micro and a macro level. Most people don't do that. So normally when people hear behavior analysis, they think ABA. That is synonymous with autism a lot now, and that's just because there's a lot of funding for it. There's been a lot of research for it, and it helps improve lives. Like that's literally what the science does, and it specifically helps that population a large amount. That's in the mental health space, working with neurodivergence or disabilities or just being wired differently, right? But you
Mhm.
can do it in a gazillion other ways. They have it in the military because my brother talked about all the systems they have in place. That's a macro level where it's not like one-on-one working with someone like in coaching or therapy type of a thing, but you're looking at a group of people. You have it in education because there's research on methodologies on how to improve learning with human behavior because we're literally looking at how people learn at your micro habits over and over and what's going to encourage that behavior or that action to happen again. And if that action helps you learn, why would you not do it? So you can do it in education, you can do it in health. I'm like, that's my hobby is fitness and food because you got to eat and you got to move to be able to eat.
Sure do.
And it's my mental headspace. I was like, I got to go do the weights. Um, you can, like, I've done analyses on myself, figuring out how to reduce sugar cravings and replacements and all of those pieces. You do it in health, like in healthcare. How do you change your habit to actually start going to the gym or taking walks or whatever it is you want to add to your life? Use behavior analysis, and maybe you're using pieces and don't know it. Someone said behavior analysis is just complex common sense. We just put fancy words on everything.
I know
um,
that's true. From what you're saying
so
so far, I mean, it pretty much sounds like that. Like it does sound like complex common sense
yep,
because you have to
yep.
focus on a habit. And it sounds like when you said the military, like I guess that makes sense because that's the reason why they did so many studies in the 50s and 60s to try to manipulate people to become zombies because that's what they were believing at the time. I mean, goodness, those studies are ridiculous.
Oh,
And what people have done in the health field to figure out human behavior is actually kind of crazy. You know what I mean? It's kind of
yeah.
crazy to really think about. So when you talk about it's also changing a habit outside of those normal DNA health issues, that will cause a certain action that may be difficult for parents and the loved ones that may be around them. I'm assuming that you teach in that spectrum as well as outside. So you also help like relationships and or just somebody learning to love themselves. Or I mean, is that kind of what
No,
it is?
you're
Did I get
good.
it on track?
You're going there. Yeah, no, I like how you're describing it. Actually, it might steal some of those words
That's
because
fine. Go
sometimes I'm
ahead.
like, I've been doing it for too long that I'm like, I know the science way, but how does everybody else term it? How do I connect? Because I do want to connect that behavior science to everyday life because there's a gap in the field and what we can do and everybody else.
Yeah.
There's a lot of
I'm
reasons.
everybody else.
Because why have a tool and not be able to tap into it? So what I do, like I like the micro and macro. And the macro, like I love doing people operations and business and looking at the systems and how people perform. So that one's just, I just have fun with that. But I do have a business, a Sparrow Behavior Solution, where I'm doing two things. And one is I do specialize with parenting and the neurodiverse, whether you're a parent of or you're an adolescent or adult, you can't always get the services you want. And then you have to deal with so many caveats with insurance. And then a lot of clinicians in my field they've only had their certification, their board certification since 2020, over 25% of them. Like the field is green and they don't know what they don't know. So what I'm doing is I want to work with parents because they're the ones that get lost in needing services, wait lists, and all the red tape.
Yeah.
But I want to bring a human focus to it. And so that's where I'm looking at developing the Aspero method, where I don't just do behavior analysis and like changing your habits. I need to know who you are as a human. So I have multiple assessments, usually takes 20 minutes to do the initial assessments. And then I include something else like values. I mix it all. And then when we do treatment, I take you into account. And I've actually found treatment hasn't worked because somebody forgot as a clinician to look at mom and be like, you're a single mom, this is your value, and you were just asked to piss off your kid. Yeah, it's not going to work. Because
Exactly.
there's no support system and it doesn't fit her values. So I'm kind of doing a mixture of that. I also supervise people becoming clinicians. And then there's other levels like the direct one-on-one therapists. I also supervise them as well. And that's all within the coaching realm in a sense. Like I call it behavior coaching because there's not another name for it. So I just invented a name.
It works,
So
right? If
that's what
it
I'm
goes
doing.
along
Yeah.
the theme
Yeah.
behavioral, then it works. Why not? You know, but I guess do you ever turn it off? I mean, while you're out and about working out or at the gym, just walking, do you ever just stop analyzing goodness people? Or does it always just like, oh, this person has this issue. Oh, I could fix that in one, two, three. Like, I don't know. Is that what you do sometimes?
I try to turn it off. I think I have it on myself more because I look at patterns. If you do one thing, I'm not going to be able to necessarily know. I actually know you why you're doing it often because I only need a microcycle to figure that piece out. But the big complex, because there's 4 Y factors of why we do what we do, and it's kind of like your primary colors. You have your basics, and then you can make any color from it. So your Y factor could be any version of those primary colors. Um, I need multiple repeats to actually fully identify your actual Y factor. And then I look at what you know how to do and don't know how to do and what's important to you, what's not. So keeping it probably is on all the time. Friends have told me to turn it off and I didn't know it was on, but I tend to analyze, but I haven't been doing it as much, I don't think, because I've been looking into things like meditation because then my brain quiets down
Yeah.
and then I'm not analyzing everything. But yes, I like to problem solve for fun anyways. So
Okay.
it's just it
It's
probably is
just
on a lot more than
natural.
I think.
Yeah, it's just natural. You
Yes.
do it at a just simple. But what got
Oh.
me was the 4 whys. What are the 4 whys?
So there's 4, if I can count right. Um, so there's 4. Now, if you talk to any other behavior analysts, they're going to call it the 4 functions of behavior, but the 4 Y factors is cooler. So that's why I call
Yeah, I
it
like
that.
that better. You got my
Um,
attention with
yes.
that versus the other one. I was like,
So
oh, what?
there's 4. Um, you do things for attention. Now I don't like that word. It's just because you think attention as a bad thing, but as a human you can't live alone. You're not made to. We saw that in 2020 when we had to like stay in our house. We
Yeah.
found a supplemental social by online, but it still didn't meet the full needs. There's a lot of depression, there's like all those pieces, right? So one is
Yeah.
attention. um Another is escape or avoidance. We do a lot as humans to feel comfortable. If it doesn't feel, we don't really want to do it. Who wants to get up before the sun? Who wants
That's
to
true.
like restrict their diet and not just eat whatever feels good in the moment?
Yeah.
We want to escape that. So sometimes we just check out or whatever it is. Now, sometimes you need to, like when you're processing traumatic events and things like that, and there's too much going on, your brain will shut down and you will notice you have a habit that you do when your brain is shut down. And that's just the way your brain heals. It lets it go through, and then you can have the energy and the motivation and the momentum to then tackle to change the habits, right? Because when you're changing your own, it's a lot harder.
Oh,
Um,
yes, it is.
and it's a lot of escape because it's not comfortable to do that. So you have
Mhm.
attention, you have escape, you have, again, these are still the science words that I haven't quite changed yet. Tangible, access to tangible is the formal way of saying it. Usually you want something. You want food, you want your phone, you want a thing. Now, some people say there's a fifth Y factor called control. Problem is that it's invisible and you can't deal with the invisible as a pure behavior analyst. So I put it control underneath tangible because control and tangible work very similarly. It's because you want access or you want something to go a certain way or to get access to a specific item. So a lot of the scenarios when I program, it's easier for my understanding of it to just put it in that category and kind of have your visible and your invisible in a sense in the same category.
Yeah.
Then you have sensory, also called automatic. If you fidget, if you move, you have this need, you're not gonna, it doesn't matter if anyone's around, you're gonna do it.
Mhm.
It's just your thing. Nail biting. Now, it can be tied to emotional states of being like anxiety and things like that, but I'm purely talking about just what's seen externally.
Yeah.
So you can remember by everybody eats, EATS. So escape, attention, tangible, and sensory.
Oh,
So
okay.
everybody does it and everybody eats, and there are only a few basic colors. So that's how I think of it. A lot of clinicians also won't talk about sub micro Y factors because, for example, just because somebody does something to get a reaction out of other people, they won't explain it, but they'll do it again. That's how reinforcement works. It's like magically it happens again because it works. Um, if you don't get the right sub Y factor accurate, like the right kind of attention, and maybe you want the behavior to stop, so you're removing the reinforcement and using a specific procedure, it's going to keep happening unless you have the right Y factor. So, two stories. One, I had a kiddo that was extremely aggressive and self-injurious. Like he was off the charts. He was a little guy, but he was like a little tornado. Put
Mhm.
in a plan and I was like, it is for escape. Okay, we're good. It's for escape. It's written and we're going to do it. And the numbers went down 50%. Never seen anything like that. I was like, that is the weirdest thing. It's like a way up here and then half as high. I was like, that's weird for a graph. And then one day I was there and he was in my lap and we were playing or doing something and mom walked in and mom walked out and he lost it and was like, I didn't account for the second Y factor because in real life, your Y factors are a mixture. It's not beautiful. It's just like splattering all colors of paint all over the place. I
Yeah.
missed it. And that's where experience in the field and having lots of experience with different clients makes you a better clinician because there's no book that can cover all of that, right? And just 2,000, 2,500 hours of supervision is not going to get you that experience.
Right.
Um, the other situation as a parent, like becoming a parent myself, it's like I was telling these parents to do things. I can't even do them. What was I thinking? Like that's insane. And
Mhm.
so she's been through a lot. So she was having a time of like a lot of outbursts. And I'm like, behavior analyst, I should know how to fix this. This should not be happening in my home.
Yeah.
But it's your child. So things are different when it's your own kid and you don't see it the same way. But I
Yeah.
remember I was like, okay, I think it's because of tension. And then I realized if I stay in the room, she will continue the yelling. If I tell her to stop, it won't work because that's also giving her the reaction wanted, which is attention. I have to leave the room and close the door for her to not continue. She needs me physically present. I don't even say anything, but me being in the room itself is what maintains and gets the behavior to continue happening, even if I don't respond.
Mm.
So that sub Y factor, I would have never figured it out until I was trying different strategies. And that's kind of what you do in the field is you're like, okay, I think this is the right one. Hypothetically, these are the right Y factors. This is, the situations that usually happens in. This is what our projected plan is. and then you have to play with it until you can tweak it just right, but not a lot of people will spend the time to tweak it until it's right. But if you
Yeah.
do, and you can get the nail on the head and the hammer on the nail, however it's said.
What I'll take it. I'll accept it.
However,
That works. Yeah.
it's seriously, if you get it right, it's like magic. I had a kid once who she came up with her own plan. We were like, "What?" We're like, "You do great at school." She's like 6 years old, and she was having
Goodness.
problems at home. And we're like, "So
Goodness.
what's going on?" And yeah, she came up with her own plan, and then, it worked like magic, and then parent didn't like the plan. So, obviously, we respect the parents, like, parents have the final say. We
Mhm.
removed it, but the old habits, the problem behaviors actually stayed gone, which is also weird, which means she really learned and experienced, and it hit all those sub Y factors. It created a bigger learning opportunity than your typical situation would. So you never know what
Will
you never
work.
know what's
Yeah.
going to happen. You
It
can
sounds
predict
like a
stuff
root.
and guess stuff, and yeah.
It sounds like one of those Rubik cubes, I think I'm saying it right, where it's all different colors and you gotta match it and you're tweaking until you finally get one color, but then you find out, oh man, there's only one on the other side and now you have to get it back there. It sounds like that's basically what you're doing with humans constantly.
Yep.
Just because each little square is a different behavior or different habit or different why, and you
Mhm.
have to figure out how to make it work for everyone. And I think that is amazing how that 6-year-old was able to figure out a plan that would work for her. Look at her, so determined at 6 years old. Goodness
I know.
gracious. You know what I mean? Like I have a plan. Now I'm a 6-year-old. Sign her up to be president one day because goodness, that's amazing. And I think
Oh,
it's very
yeah.
nice that you're doing this because one of the things that I absolutely loved when I was checking out your website was at the very end where it said, if no person is the same, why should treatment be built as humans were? I mean, I think that's a very deep statement because everywhere we go, the structure that everyone follows is black and white. They don't even see the gray that's in there. They don't see all the shades that are in between. It's simply black and white. Oh, female, male, boom, this, and this is how you fall. Okay, great. But in reality, it's not like that. And I think it's great how you already determined that. And I think the fact that experience and I guess more of your self will, because this is like a pattern, but you know that there's a way to solve it, and it's like you're driven to solve these problems, and it's amazing because not many people would want to do that. You know what I mean? Not many people would want to help somebody else figure out their own lives and or just how to just shift their perspective to be able to make their lives better. So what really made you like figure out like I could help more than myself or more than the community around me, that you were like this is needs to be bigger than what I can imagine it to be.
That's a big question.
See, that's a thinker. See,
I
let's
no,
think
no, you're
about
good.
it.
Nope, that's good. I like to think. I was listening to your previous podcast, and yes, I was like, "Oh, yes, we're gonna have fun." Because I like thinking about stuff because we only have one life, right? And but yes, what got me into it, I don't even know how to explain how it's not a one thing. It's been a journey because I grew up a missionary kid. So in my head, in my phase of life as a missionary kid, changing countries and all that up to my 20s. Then I was in college and married and lived on the East Coast. That's when I fell into the field because I'd finished college and I knew I wanted to work with kids because adults are complicated. I was like, why would I want to work with
Yeah,
adults? Like
tell me about it.
kids is like hi, and they're your
Yeah.
best friends instantly. I'm like, no drama.
Yes. Yes.
So I wanted to work with kids, and I knew in my gut I wanted to do that. Um, and I don't think I ever feel like anything is as it at its true potential. There's always a possibility for something else, not in a bad way, but probably in the past, like not content in the moment. Um, so I fell into the field. It was so sketch. Apparently, they had just gotten funding in South Carolina I was one of the second hiring group of this brand new company. I go meet this random dude. This girl goes, "Go meet this white dude. He's got blue eyes and he's bald." And I'm going to this other town in a coffee shop. Like it's so sketch. And then my first client apparently is one of the first 100 clients to get Medicaid funding for ABA services. I found all this out later. I met the guy that started the whole process to get Medicaid the other day. And I was like, my word, I wouldn't do this except for you. It's like, it's crazy. Anyways, I did it. That kid, we attached. You're not really supposed to be attached to people, but when you go in to be their friend, but they become yours too, and you just can't talk about it. Um,
Yeah.
but why I stayed. So I worked for 6 months and then I couldn't afford the job. So I went into apartments leasing. I was like, screw that. I'm going to go back to the field anyways. And his speech came back 3 times. And the third time I was with him. And when I started with him, he could not talk at all or communicate in any form. And after I had worked with him for a long time, we played all the time. That's what it should look like, is learning and playing. And I was teaching him to communicate with pictures. And after I stopped working with him, I pulled up to the clinic one day and he saw me through a window. He went over to the book, put a whole sentence together of, "I want Hannah, or I want to see Hannah." And he gives it to his therapist and he waits in the hallway. Like to this day, like the connection you can create with somebody by accident and you don't know what they're going to do for you and you can do for them. That's why I stayed in the field. Then I did the traditional route, became a supervisor in a corporate company. I got burned out and left. And I nannied and took my daughter with me. And I nannied for somebody who was getting ABA services. And I saw what a wretched, wretched service that got. And she couldn't change because it would be 9 months before she got other services. So that's 9 months lost. It's like nobody's helping these parents. So I decided back in 2018, I was like, I'll start business. Oh, no business. Are you kidding me? It's been 8 years. I'm still learning business. They don't teach you business. But I talk to people in the field. They're like, yeah, I should change. I'm thinking, well, why are you talking about it? We are the future. Like we are the future for our kids. We are the future for the field. Why would we not want to do something? So in my gut, I'm like, I want to change the system. You can't do it alone. I mean, granted, there is a piece. You have Rosa Parks. All she did was sit. I'm like, if all she did was sit and she changed history, what could we do? Because we can talk and move and Zoom. like,
Yeah.
um, like how much more could we do when there's more of us that want change? But even in the field, not a lot of people are afraid of the system. But I'm like, even if you can just wake up and make a difference, but you can't make a difference if you can't change yourself. And that's what somebody once told me. If you don't change, your kids don't change. I was like, chunk. The next day, I put in interventions for behaviors for my kids and had more meltdowns of taking turns than I've ever had. But it's because I needed to change. And so in 2020, no, 2019 to 2020, lost my home, lost my work, lost my health, gave birth to a second kid, lived in a state with no family. I lost everything. And at that point, it was, if I have to go through this, let me make it worth it. And ever since that point and those years, it's just been a journey of like, how can we make things different? And sure, I'll have ideas. I'm like, let's force this business. Let's do crazy. I was listening to your podcast on crazy. Crazy changes the world. We would not
Yes.
have airplanes without crazy. We wouldn't even have behavior analysis unless somebody decided to be crazy in the psych field and get made fun of. And
Yes.
now kids are learning to talk that would have never had the possibility to connect with their mom and dad and connect with people. So
Yes.
it's the little things that make the big difference in the end. So I guess in my gut, I'm like, let's just do this.
Yeah,
Let's
I
just
know.
do it, make it worth it.
I like your response because I could tell it was very transparent. You're very honest with it. It's like I feel like you didn't really think about that question where it's just like it just came out as is, and I think those are the best responses because somebody out there needs to hear this. You know what I mean? Somebody needs to realize like, you know what, if Hannah can do it, I can do it. Because let's be honest, a lot of people, their life got turned upside down when 2020 happened, you know?
Oh,
And
yeah.
to know that everything was going downhill, you were like, no, I'm gonna do it. I don't give a fuck what happens. At the end of the day, as long as I die knowing I tried, then you know what? That's the guarantee that I can get myself. And it's true. It's I think more people need to hear that. So I thank you for sharing that with my audience. And if anybody is interested to know more or want to reach out to Hannah or go follow her, whatever the case you want to do, go check out her website. I have it on my website under her lovely photo. Just click it right there, 1, 2, 3, and boom, you get to see everything greatness that Hannah has to offer to the world. Because truly, thank you so much, Hannah. Like your testimony truly needs to be heard because there's people out there that need to realize like if this is something that you're good at doing, catching these patterns into people and molding them in this little Rubik cube, then you know what, then do it, because it's so hard to change ourselves. But once you're in that mode of actually and you're determined to change yourselves, I mean, you're limitless. Anything can possibly happen. And it is beautiful how technology and things have advanced because it is crazy to think how just in the 90s, hearing cell phones and seeing them evolve, I mean, goodness, it has been such a change. I mean, nobody really realized that we grew up in the generation of crazy people, you know what I mean? Crazy people who really wanted to make a difference in the world. So you know what? Hannah, we could be crazy together.
That works. Thank you so much. This is just a pleasure.
Thank you, thank you. So that's it. That's the show, y'all. Always, always, always keep thinking. Bye.